first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you all very much for joining us here today. I do appreciate it. And if you're watching live, you're used to checking us out here at KPTV.com or Fox 12 Oregon app, or of course on social media. So thanks for joining the show. And as you know, we cover a wide range of topics here on this show, and one right now I am really excited to talk about. I actually got to see our guest a couple of years ago, just a happenstance that I got to see and hear some of this amazing story, and she's here now to talk about it. I'm Fawn Weaver. Fawn, thank you.
Thank you for
very
having
much
me.
for coming in studio here to our interesting little setup we've got going.
Yes, this is quite the setup. You're like moving stuff
it's buttons,
and
it's things.
all kind of stuff going on over
I know,
here. Y'all can't see this, but there's a lot happening over here.
So if you ever see me looking back like that, that's me panicking like, did I pot something up? But I think we're good. But I'm excited to talk about this, just your story and everything. And we've got your book here.
Yes.
Love and Whiskey.
Yeah.
And so you are going to be at Portland Center Stage tonight.
Yes, in conjunction with Powell's book and with Multnomah Whiskey Library. Everybody's hosting me.
That's a good combo right
there.
Yes,
it is.
Everybody's hosting you. And there's a reason for that. It's because of this incredible story and this whiskey that we have here. And, I guess just to start off, probably just, if you could, tell us a little bit about the history of this, about Uncle Nearest, and then how you got involved with this.
Absolutely. Love and Whiskey is 8 years in the making. The first chapters for this book were originally written back in September 2016.
Wow.
And it has we've continued doing so much research, and so thousands and thousands of hours and documents, and so many, over 30 historians, archivists, archaeologists, genealogists. I interviewed about 100 of Nearest Green's descendants and Jack Daniel's descendants.
Wow.
Because it was important that if we were going to change history,
yeah,
that we got it right.
Yeah.
And so hearing from every side and getting that input was really important, but then being able to pull artifacts from as many places as possible, equally as important. Because if you're going to come into the middle of the most ubiquitous American brand, you know, maybe Nike, Jack Daniel, those are the two, McDonald's, those are kind of the big three. If you're going to come in the middle of the history of Jack Daniel, you better have your stuff right.
Right.
And so this is what we now know is this is actually not Nearest, this is his son, George Green, and that this book opens up with the full photo, not the cropped photo, it's the full photo. And what you find is that this is a picture taken in circa 1904, in which Jack Daniel has ceded the center position to his mentor's son and to his right hand at that time.
Wow.
And so you have multi-generations of people working alongside each other to make this great American whiskey. And so being able to tell this story of love, honor, and respect between Jack and Nearest, but then also between Nearest's descendants and Jack, and then Jack's descendants and Nearest's descendants, and something that just continued to go on. Right now in America, Lord knows we need hope. We need stories that actually remind us of who we are at our best self. And even though Nearest Green was an enslaved man when he began teaching Jack, what this story dives into is how unique this town of Lynchburg was, in which they did not allow race to separate them. People were eating around the same dinner table. People were respecting each other, honoring each other, and not seeing each other on different levels just because they were different colors.
That's amazing. I mean, that's the story, we're talking about in the 1800s, the
absolutely.
early 1900s,
19th century, we got this right.
Yeah.
Right? And so being able to kind of, one of the things that happens in here is I'm telling the story from modern day. You're coming with me as I'm doing the research. You're getting excited with me as I'm uncovering documents and artifacts, and I'm meeting with different descendants and meeting with different elders of the community. And the readers come with me the whole way, and they learn as I learn.
Wow.
And so it doesn't feel like something that's been written in the past and stayed in the past.
Yeah.
Everyone gets to discover this story in the same way that I did, and it's an unbelievable story.
And you're finding, as you mentioned, you're going along with you as you're discovering this.
Yes.
And really, so Nearest Green was, from what I understand, the first known, anyway, African American Master Distiller.
Yes, and I love that you say the first known, because I absolutely believe that there was likely one that came before him.
Yeah.
We just don't know the name, but Jack and his descendants took such painstaking efforts to make sure that we could never erase the legacy of Nearest Green. So now we're talking about it all this time later because of the breadcrumbs that they left to make sure, okay, no matter what America goes through, you're not going to erase the legacy of this man named Nearest Green.
Yeah, and that relationship he had with Jack Daniel, and as you mentioned, the family and the descendants, and such a good story and a good good showing of that. You talking about the research side, just what you said there at the beginning. I don't know, 30 different historians or however many people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. A lot of people were involved in the making of this. You know how they say a lot of people involved in the making of the film. There's a lot of people involved in the making of this book.
Yeah, I mean that's a tremendous amount, especially from back then. You know, there's records are probably all over the place. Who
burned,
knows?
yeah,
burned,
they were,
yeah,
yes.
lost.
Yes.
So finding that's
Oh, yeah.
just a huge effort on its own.
It's unbelievable. Even going into the archives, I remember going into the archives right outside of Atlanta, and that's where most of the stuff for the distillers, all of these ledgers. And so I called ahead of time. I told them what I was looking for. They pulled out all these books, and I arrived there, and they literally have me in this big glass room in which there are cameras everywhere. They're watching my every move because they're making sure nothing gets removed. But I could only bring in a camera and a pencil and a piece of paper. And so you have all these ledgers with all these details of these distillers. And so I'm literally taking each page, a picture of every single page. And imagine doing that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. But I pulled documents and artifacts from 6 different states. And and bought the original Jack Daniel Distillery, Distillery number 7, the original home where Jack grew up, and the 313 acres where Nearest lived, where Jack lived, where they were both, Jack was a chore boy working for a man that was a preacher and distiller. Nearest was the master distiller working for the same man. So you got this story of these 2 men, or this boy and this man on this property together, and just their life of kind of growing up, if you will. Yeah. And then creating one of the most iconic American brands in U.S.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, known worldwide. Everybody
Everywhere.
knows that name.
Everywhere. And I live in Tennessee, and so any place I go in the world and I say Tennessee and they go, Jack. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Jack.
And so you got that property. I think that's amazing. You have the house where Jack Daniel was.
Yeah.
But then also Nearest's, the property he was working on too. And then tell us about, creating this whiskey.
Yeah.
Like, not only the story, but you've actually gone further than that.
Absolutely. Well, it began with the plans were to do a book, to do a movie. And one of the things that you discover very early on, and I'll give you a really good example of how, and you'll get it, but what you learn early on is the reason why we're still talking about Jack Daniel, Johnny Walker, Jim Beam, all these folks, is we're seeing their names to this day on back bars everywhere we go, restaurants, bars, hotels. And that's really the only way you can cement the legacy of someone like this. But originally I thought, it'd be so much easier just to do a book, just to do a movie. Yeah. And then I went to go see Hidden Figures with Nearest's descendants. And I realized 2 weeks after seeing that incredible movie, I didn't know the names of the people that Octavia Spencer, Janelle Monáe, and Taraji P. Henson played. I walked out of there knowing the same people that I knew when I walked in. Yeah. And so that's kind of the trap of entertainment. There's so much coming out that if we rested on that to tell the story of Nearest Green, he would, without question, once again, be forgotten. Because his story was always told. When Jack was alive, when Jack's descendants were alive and ran the distillery, Nearest's name and his legacy was always known. And then between 78 and 79, it disappeared. So now we're bringing it back and we're telling the story. But because it disappeared once, we know it can disappear again if we don't make sure that we cement his legacy. And so Uncle Nearest, Love and Whiskey tells the story, and it's a beautiful story. But Uncle Nearest is what cements his legacy. Yeah, this actual whiskey, which we can see right here, which everybody, you can see it. And fantastic whiskey. It is not just fantastic. It's the most awarded bourbon of 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. And we're so far ahead of everybody else in 2024, best in class everywhere around the world, that nobody is catching up. Nobody is catching up. And so one of the things that we knew we had to do coming into an industry that was so old is that we had to figure out how to perfect something within this environment already. Yeah. And so Nearest Green's great-great-granddaughter, Victoria Edie Butler, who's also here, she'll be with me tonight doing a special tasting of single barrels and master blend that she created just for this tour. So she'll be with me, and the tour is Love and Whiskey Unfiltered. And what's amazing about that is there is no host, there's no celebrity, there's no influencers. The entire audience are the host. So I take live questions unfiltered. No, literally there's mics all over. And people just ask. So this is our 8th city doing this. And in between me asking or answering questions, Victoria does a tasting of Uncle Nearest. It's really a cool experience.
I mean, that's so involved in, bringing the audience in with you and having, being a part of it, which sounds like that's kind of what this is too. Just the inclusiveness of their story and then you including the audience.
Absolutely.
Being a part of the performance, the show.
Well, I will say, I expect different questions from PDX than I have received anywhere else in this country. So I'm super excited about it because PDX always has its own take on things, which I have to ask you because I'm here. I came through the airport yesterday.
Yeah.
So I think it was maybe about 10 years ago when everybody was going crazy because the carpet was going away.
Yeah.
And I got a piece of the carpet because it was such a thing. Now I'm going back to the airport and they said they're bringing back the carpet.
I think people got...
They fought for a decade over this carpet.
It's, believe me, I mean, and I don't want to, now everybody's going to be like, okay, don't say anything bad about the carpet. The carpet's cool. But yeah, it is a thing. The carpet was actually, I believe who was the Grand Marshal of the Rose Parade one year? They had somebody dressed up like the carpet. Like it's
its own thing.
It's a deal.
It's an own thing.
Yeah.
And when I came back through, I said, you gotta love the people of Portland. They won this fight. They said, not only are we going to all buy pieces of the carpet, but we're going to work on this for a decade and we're going to get it back.
Yeah.
And so I thought that to me represented Portland so well.
Stubbornness, regardless of region.
I loved it. I loved it coming through the airport yesterday with the big Post-it notes that said, bring the carpet back. I was like, oh my God, carpet is still a thing here.
I mean, if that's the thing, people get worked up, that's a good thing.
Hey, listen,
that means,
listen,
that's all.
We'll take it.
Yeah,
we'll take
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and Uncle Nearest, you've had it here in Portland. So just to ask you that,
we debuted in Portland. We didn't just
have it.
Debuted
in Portland.
So the first place to ever have Uncle Nearest is Portland. And you'll learn why in Love and Whiskey. It was very strategic for us to launch in Portland. Portlanders are so all about independence and really about not letting some big guy come in and crush a little guy.
Yeah.
And we're coming into this as the little guy. And we're like, where can we launch this that we know that they will cover us and protect us? And so that's why we launched in Portland. We hired marketing was all done here, all incubated here and over at Pollinate. And then they're not here anymore, but Little Green Pickle did all of our PR. And so we brought in the whole community. B-Saws isn't around anymore, but that's where we launched it.
Wow.
And we had Jacobson Salt did a special salt, which they still sell to this day. I think it's still one of their best sellers, the 1856 salt. We had Smith Tea did its own 1856 tea. Salt and Straw did a peanut butter and jelly ice cream bar with Uncle Nearest. Like, we had so many people in Portland, artisans, that came together and said, hey, we're going to help you launch this brand. So this brand is as much Portland as it is Nashville and Shelbyville.
I love it. I love it, bringing that in and talking about that, that independent spirit here. But
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and being embraced here and having this here. And so for you, after starting this, I think you said 2016 is when you started writing this book. So going from that to now, best-selling author, doing a tour, doing all that, how does it feel to see all of that work and that hard effort pay off with this and having people learn this story?
It's amazing because there are not a lot of African American women that debut on the New York Times bestseller list, and those that do generally fall off after the first week. And this book has been on the New York Times bestseller list consecutively since it debuted June 18th. And so it is just people are embracing it. Last I checked on Amazon yesterday, every review, it's at 5 stars still, which is really hard to do once you start getting into bigger numbers. And it's still 5 stars across the board. I think Goodreads has it at 4.8. And so people are loving it. There's a lot of men that are in the reviews saying, my wife said, she's never seen me read a book cover to cover, and you're seeing that a lot where people will say, I just picked it up to read a couple chapters and I now can't put it down. Yeah. And so that's, I think, for an author, the greatest compliment you can get is that people pick up the book and they literally don't want to put it down. That's, there is no greater compliment for an author.
Amazing. Well, I mean, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's just so awesome, and doing all this work for this, and ultimately getting this story out there.
Absolutely.
People,
yeah.
telling people about it. Anything you want to let people know about coming to down tonight to Portland Center Stage?
Yeah, Portland Center Stage, and I think the tickets are pretty close to sold out if they are not at this point, but at Portland Center Stage, Multnomah Whiskey Library is a part of it, and then Powell's Books. I know the VIP tickets for sure for the Powell's Books section are sold out, but Love and Whiskey Unfiltered at Portland Center Stage. You can get it online. loveandwhiskeybook.com is the tour. You can just go into Eventbrite. They have it as well, and it's going to be a great, it's not like a normal book tour stop at all. It's a lot of fun. It's very authentic, which is very Portland.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
so come out and ask your questions, and I'm answering them completely unfiltered.
Bold move. No, but I know you can handle that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes, I
that's
can.
bold. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming
for
here in the
having me,
studio
Greg.
and
Thank you.
talking to us. And thanks to everybody out there who's tuning in. Again, this is Fox 12 Now. So feel free to share this segment afterward, let other people know about it. And yeah, Fawn, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you.
And now I'll hit one of these buttons back here.